Here is a terrible secret that most people are scared to look in the face and to confront. Welcome, Vanakkam, Swagatham. This video is meant only for those who have the gumption to recognize the truth. And therefore, I request that those who are easily rattled, those who feel overwhelmed by fear or cowardice in the face of manifest truths, may not see this video any further than they already have. They'll do themselves and me also some good if they don't. The substance of this video, or the main point that I would submit to your consideration, is a fact of history that no one can deny, a fact of history that continues to impinge on our life even today. Put it very starkly and bluntly, I'll use three words. Religion is a killer. 4 words, if you count the indefinite article a as one. So religion is a killer. Religion is a killer. I don't know if this has occurred to you, but whenever I look into history, particularly the religious history of our species, this is the thought that strikes me with maximum force. Of course, as you would imagine, the starting point for my reflection and my seeking is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. No one can debate, no one can doubt even for a moment that Jesus was killed by the keepers of Judaism. They were inspired, or they felt compelled to defend their religion. And they were worried that Jesus posed an existential threat to their religion. So they killed Jesus for the sake of their God. Now, this is something with which Christians would by and large agree. Though, of course, they would argue that it's not just the high priest who was responsible. Rome was also responsible, for after all, the high priest did not have the authority of life and death. It was Pontius Pilate, as the governor of Rome stationed in Judea, who condemned Jesus and handed him over to be crucified. Fair enough. But if you read the account of the trials of Jesus Christ, and you know that he was tried more than once, you cannot escape the fact, the simple, brutal fact, that Pilate wanted to avoid this most abhorrent, horrible thing of being dragged into the judicial murder of an innocent man. He was totally convinced that Jesus was innocent, and he declared it as such. But it was the clamor of the religious people among the Jews, instigated by the chief priest and under him the Sanhedrin, that insisted on the innocent man being crucified. So this was my starting point. Then when I read years ago Voltaire's treatise on tolerance, it was written towards the end of the 18th century, I came across this very startling sentence. Though I read this book many years ago, these words have remained etched very clearly and starkly in my memory. He says, "No man is a more cheerful killer than the one who thinks he is killing for the sake of his God." I'll repeat that. No man is a more cheerful killer than the one who thinks that he is killing for the sake of his God. So all inhibitions regarding bloodshed, which applies to a vast majority of people. All inhibitions in this regard will disappear the moment religion comes into the picture, or religion becomes the justification for murder. And then murder becomes something sacred. Though the commandment, one of the 10 commandments, as all of us know, is thou shalt not kill under any circumstance. Actually, the implication of that commandment, you shall not kill, is that you shall not kill under any circumstance for any reason whatsoever. And as you know, that Jesus reaffirms it in the Garden of Gethsemane. When Peter draws his sword and strikes at the high priest's servant, he says, put down the sword, for he who takes the sword shall perish by it. But religion historically has reposed its faith in situations of perceived insecurity, which may not be real insecurity, perceived insecurity, rather exclusively in the sword and only for name's sake in God. So if there is a choice between God and sword, religion, every religion, not just one religion or two religions, every religion in times of perceived insecurity will repose its faith rather exclusively in the sword than in God. This is the stark reality. And as regards this insecurity that religion or religious communities feel from time to time, very often, in fact, it's hard to come across an exception to this pattern. Very often, what is perceived as an existential threat to a religion is nothing but the existential threat to the priestly class within the religion. Because the priestly class tends to equate the religious community, the religion itself, with its own interest. And they are experts in brainwashing people to believe that whatever undermines their hegemony will also ruin the religion to which people belong, which constitutes their spiritual home. And therefore, it's very easy to incite a mob and inflame passions, which then makes people plunge into bloodshed without any inhibitions. Now, then my thinking traveled a long time back to a person who lived some 4 centuries before Jesus Christ. His name is Socrates. It's a name that I've referred to in some of my earlier videos. And I've never concealed my admiration for Socrates. It's one of the most fascinating persons in the history of our species. I would commend to my viewers to acquaint themselves with the life of Socrates, warning them that material regarding his life and teachings are very scarce. But thank God we have at least 2 major sources. One is Plato, particularly Plato's Apology. But not only Apology, much of Plato's work pertains to Socrates' teaching. It's cast in the form of what's called Socratic dialogues. The dialogic method of expounding themes is what is characteristic of Plato. But I don't want to burden you with technicalities. Developing a theme in the format of a conversation between people or among people. So that's the approach. So Plato is one source. The other source is Xenophon, Zenophon, Xenophon. So these are the 2 major sources we have about the life and teachings of Socrates. And as far as Plato is concerned, I would also refer you to a small book by Plato that's titled Crito, Crito, which deals with the last day in the life of Socrates. It makes gripping reading. It will be a pity if you don't read that book. Crito by Plato. Crito by Plato. Now, Socrates devoted his life to philosophy. He's actually regarded the father of European philosophy, indeed, father of Western philosophy as a whole. A British philosopher by the name Alfred North Whitehead, A.N. Whitehead. Alfred North Whitehead said that all of European philosophy is but a footnote to Plato. That's the kind of significance that Plato enjoys in the development of Western philosophy. I don't want to downplay the importance of Aristotle as far as the development of Western science is concerned. Definitely Aristotle's contributions are far more important than Plato's. But Plato has had a greater influence on the formation of early Christian theology, particularly the theology of the early church fathers, whereas Aristotle influenced more of Western theology. And the strange thing about Christianity is that Christian theology can never be separated from Greek philosophy. And the narrow-minded, ill-informed, mediocre defenders of Christianity who maintain that in order to preserve the purity of the biblical faith, we should not read any other book or listen to anybody else or consider thoughts extraneous to the Bible. We should despise the world and its wisdom. They have no clue, they don't have the foggiest idea as to the significant role played by Greek philosophy in the development of Christian theology. Well, that's a subject in itself. Let me not take more time on it. But I want us to realize that this negativity towards whatever is included in the word world, despise the world, hate the world, hate the world. All the time we are living in the world, we are living of the world, we are living by the world, and we are living for the world. Anyway, this kind of hypocrisy needs to be called out. Now, let's continue with Socrates. Socrates was accused of two major offenses. One was, he was accused of impiety. That is to say, he did not show due reverence to the gods of Athens. In those days, people ardently believed that the very viability of a city, its very survival, depended on its patron gods. So God and the city could never be separated. Like in the Old Testament context, just as Jerusalem and David and Davidic dynasty cannot be separated, so also in Athens, the god of Athens was the main reason for the survival, the security, and also the prosperity, the goodness of the city. Now, the main basis for accusing Socrates of impiety was, it's very interesting, that Socrates said that the sun is not a god, but a stone, Imagine in those days, 2,500 years ago, nearly, I mean, the life of Socrates is fixed between 470 BC and 399 BC. It is fairly certain that he died in 399 because that's the year when he was condemned to death, and death by drinking hemlock. But whether he was born exactly in 490 BC is highly problematic, because Socrates was around 70 years old when he died, as he himself states, so he could not really have been born in 470. That apart. So the main allegation against him was that he taught people that sun was not God but a stone, and further, to compound the offense, he also taught that the moon was part of the earth. Imagine in those days, he was far ahead of his times. And even today, you get punished, and punished severely, for being ahead of the times. It's something that all of us know and all of us at least should be aware of. The second allegation that was brought against Socrates was that he was a corrupter of the youth. How did Socrates corrupt the youth? He taught them to ask questions. Rather than take everything on blind faith, he said, examine everything, ask questions, interrogate, satisfy yourself, use your reason, your common sense. And only that which harmonizes with your common sense, your sense of justice and fairness, you should accept. So he tried to deliver people from blind faith. And the majority of the young people who actually listened to Socrates belonged to the more affluent families in Athens, because they were the people who were free. Socrates used to teach in the marketplace, in the colonnade, and he used to usually begin talking with people by about 11 a.m. and go on till lunchtime. Then he would go home. He never earned a penny. All that he earned was the wrath of his wife Xanthippe. And there is a story that Xanthippe was extremely upset with Socrates' irresponsible ways, and she was very short-tempered, something of a termagant. And one day, Socrates came back after his peripatetic teaching. Peripatetic teaching is walking around and teaching whoever you come across, rather than sitting somewhere and teaching. Peripatetic teaching. And Xanthippe couldn't control her anger. So she came, and Socrates was sitting on the veranda of the house. She came and gave him a mouthful. But Socrates was a man of unflappable temperament. He didn't react, which provoked Xanthippe. Xanthippe spelling is Xanthipp, Xanthippe, Xanthippe, Xanthippe. This provoked her all the more, and then she went and brought a bucket full of water and splashed it on Socrates' head. Socrates smiled and he said, after thunder and lightning, the rain. That's typical Socrates. After the thunder and lightning, the rain. See? It's also credited to Socrates, or Socrates is supposed to have said, marry by all means. If you're lucky, you will get a good wife. If not, you will become a philosopher. And there are many such interesting statements, aphorisms attributed to Socrates. So the youth coming from fairly well-to-do families listened to him. Then they went home and practiced whatever they learned from Socrates. They started questioning the elders, which in the Athenian society of those days was considered highly offensive. So Socrates was accused of being a corrupter of the youth. So these were the two major allegations or charges against him. And a kind of jury was constituted, comprising more than 500 people. And the trial took place. The trial began and concluded the same day, and Socrates was condemned to death. So in the course of Socrates' response to the allegations made by the three main detractors, Anytus, Meletus, and Lycon. These were the three detractors, the three people who accused Socrates. Anytus, Meletus, Anytus, Meletus, Meletus, and Lycon, Lycon. Easy to remember. And when Lycon was bringing forward the charge against Socrates, he is supposed to have said, "I'd rather die as Socrates than live as Lycon." That's typical of Socrates. I'd rather die as Socrates than live as Lycon. Anyway, Socrates was then given the choice. as to the mode of punishment. That also sort of in a way indicates the sense of justice that the Athenians had. Nowadays you can't imagine the accused who is condemned being also given the choice as to the mode of punishment. If Socrates wanted, he could have asked for exile and he could have lived in comfort for the rest of his life, because there were plenty of people who were willing to take care of him. He could also ask for imprisonment rather than death, so that he could have lived in the prison of Athens, and he would have been well taken care of there also, because he commanded enormous respect and he had very affluent and powerful friends. He also could have actually appealed for mercy on condition that he will stop his activities and he will abandon his mission to enlighten the youth of Athens. He said, I would rather die than abandon my mission. I will not give up my philosophy for the sake of my life. Now, I don't want to go further into these details. I've given this much. I thought I would include this much information in this, just to give you a flavor of the man. Can you imagine such a man being executed, judicially murdered? Isn't it sheer madness? And as the trial ends and Socrates is being sent away to prison, Socrates said, there comes a point in the life of a man like me when he has to speak like a prophet. That's exactly what he said. He said, I prophesy that you will all be condemned and you will be stigmatized for what you are doing today. Okay, now the point I want you to see here is that Socrates would not have been condemned to death. This great man, the noblest of all Athenians, in fact the noblest man ever seen in European history, the whole of Europe, this man would not have been condemned to death but for religion. That's a simple, brutal, palpable fact. Because if religion were not brought into the picture, people's conscience would have been pricked. Because there wasn't a single person who actually could have attested to any wrongdoing on the part of Socrates. Saying that he corrupted the youth of Athens by encouraging them to ask searching questions is really no crime. It was no crime even by Athenian criminal codes. But the real charge was that he was impious and he did not conform to the religious practices and customs of Athens. That was the issue. That was what took the life of Socrates. Now, I've already referred to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It is religion, it is religion, it is religion all the way to Calvary. Think of Lord Buddha. Because of his background, royal background, etc., and because of the higher degree of tolerance obtained at that time, he was not killed when he was alive. But we know that historically, Buddhism, this pacifist religion, this religion of compassion, this religion of high philosophy, in fact, the reason why Buddhism finds such a tremendous response from Western Hemisphere today is because of its unmatched philosophical grandeur. If you read a book like Fitzgeorge Capra's The Tao of Physics, The Tao of Physics by Fitzgeorge Capra, is an Italian author, you will see the kind of fascination that Buddhism has. So many people, the intellectuals of England and America, not merely England and America, also Germany, Italy, France, got influenced by Buddhist philosophy, and they were amazed at the profundity of the philosophical thought in Buddhism. Now, then you read Veer Savarkar's book Hindutva, first written in 1923 when he was a prisoner in Andaman Nicobar, Kalapani, room number 106, I think, cell number 106. I remember going into that room where it now burns a lamp which is kept shining all the time. It's not allowed to die out. Now, if you read that book, it's an epic narration, begins with an epic narration of how Buddhism was eliminated from the land of its birth. So Buddha could not be got hold of, but Buddhism has been eliminated. Of course, now Buddhism is staging a comeback. You know that Ambedkar embraced Buddhism with 600,000 of his followers in 1956, I think, 1956. Now Buddhism is a force to reckon with. Of course, Buddhism is still classified as a minority religion. It is one among the 5 notified, nationally notified minority religions in India. The other being Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Zoroastrianism, the Parsis, religion of the Parsis, and of course then Buddhism. After the TMAPI Foundation versus the State of Karnataka Supreme Court judgment of 2002, the definition of minorities changed. Let me not go into those complicated questions at this time. But these are the 5 nationally designated religious minorities. So Buddhism is real. It has not been completely eliminated. Now that brutality is inspired by religion. Think of the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. I don't think Nathuram Vinayak Godse was a bad man. He did something horrendously wrong, yes. But if you ask me who killed Mahatma Gandhi, I would not say Nathuram Vinayak Godse. I would say religion. Mark my words. I'm not saying Hinduism killed Mahatma Gandhi. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not against any religion. I'm not for any religion. I'm only a student of religion. I'm a student of history as well as a student of literature. It is religion that killed Mahatma Gandhi. And there is profound irony here because Mahatma Gandhi took his spiritual experiments more earnestly and seriously than his political initiatives. If you read his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, Gandhi makes a very significant statement there. Many significant revelations, but one among them is, he says, my political initiatives or my political experiments are nothing compared to my spiritual experiments. It isn't say religious, spiritual. So in a sense, what you find in the assassination of Gandhiji is precisely the pattern that you find in the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It's a conflict between spirituality and religion, and all religions are the same. No religion is different in this respect. Absolutely not. I know that I stand to incur the wrath of my fellow Christians in saying this, but I must bear witness to the truth, and I say this with absolute responsibility in full possession of my senses. No religion is different from another. All are exactly the same in this respect. In their blind faith in violence, religion kills. That's my testimony, that's my witness, that's my considered opinion. Now, if you actually look at this pattern and continue your own research or thinking or analysis, you'll come to very significant conclusions. But let me close this little video with one more thought. I have time only to just sneak it in and then I leave it. It's not only that religion kills those who are considered to be enemies of that particular religion. Even more importantly, even more worrisomely, religion kills the personality of its believers. To me, that's the greatest worry. You consider anyone, you examine anyone who is an ardent, zealous religious person, a religious bigot, rest assured that person will be terribly deficient in his humanity or her humanity. You cannot reason with such a person. There's nothing in that person that you can appeal to. Talking to such a person is like pouring water into an inverted bucket. It's a very cancellation, deletion of humanity. It is such a terrible saying. Your humanity dies, your personality dies if you are a slave of religion. It is for this reason that I believe that Jesus considered liberating people from their slavery to religion to be the foremost agenda of a spiritual mission. And that also explains why the keepers, the custodians of religion, considered him an existential threat to religion and concluded that in order for the religious agenda to survive and flourish, it is necessary to liquidate this innocent man. So the verdict is brutal. He is innocent, but kill him. Innocent, but kill him. That's religion. That's historical evidence, something I have not manufactured. This is the evidence, stark evidence. I repeat my words again. 2 words. Religion kills. Whereas God is the giver of life and spirituality is a celebration of life. And life has no labels. Life is neither Hindu, nor Muslim, nor Christian, nor Parsi, nor Sikh. Life is not even an atheist. You can't even stick the label of atheism on life. Life is light. And God is the fountain spring of that life. Therefore, if you look at the vision of anyone who is spiritually awake and spiritually sensitive, you will find that they are focused not on religion at all. They are focused on life and the ingredients that constitute the beauty and the goodness of life. Gandhi was a spiritually enlightened person, therefore he was not a religious bigot. He did not frequent temples, churches, mosques, unlike the politicians who take his name today. He was against the communalization of politics. He insisted that the spiritual light must ennoble, illumine political agendas, the political project, in order to ensure the well-being of the people. Therefore, he talked about the 7 cardinal evils of politics, of life. One of them is politics without principles. Another is worship without work. Worship without work. Anyway, so Gandhi's spiritual enlightenment also implies his liberation from abject slavery to religion. He accepted everyone. He said, because I'm a good Hindu, I can also be a good Muslim, a good Christian, a good Sikh, a good Parsi, a good Baudh, so on and so forth. That's where I too stand. Religion should never divide us. Religion should not bring the animal out of us. Religion should not put out the light within us. And the father of the nation is a model that we can actually take very seriously and imbibe and consider as the beacon of light that illumines our path. I believe in shared spirituality, not divisive religion. Nothing that chops up, fragments, divides, disunites the human family is acceptable to me. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Life, not death. Love, not murder. That's where the future of humanity lies. Let's walk in that direction. Jai Hind.